Hello and welcome to episode 11, I think it is. Is it 11? Yes, it is. I'm just looking at the screen there. And today we're going to look at issue 2 of Block Magazine. And I have a very special guest, and most of you will know who she is, but I will introduce you just in case there is one or two of you that have never seen a show. And that is Kerry Smith of Deprogrammed. Welcome.
Hi, Neil.
How
Merry
are you
Christmas.
doing? Yeah, and you? How did it go? What did you get up to?
Well, I could think it's still Christmas until January 6th.
Ah.
So isn't that the Catholics know? I forget. I think January 6th is supposed to be the day that the wise men brought gifts to Jesus. If there's a Catholic in the chat, correct me. So I was just told that I can continue to celebrate, which I plan on doing until January 6th and getting all my late presents out. So
well, isn't January 6th the other Christmas day? Isn't that the Orthodox Christmas day?
Is it?
I don't know whether somebody else can tell us. Anybody know? Morticia has mentioned the Lutherans, but I don't quite know in what context.
She says the correct Catholics. Well, there you go. We need we need a correct Catholic to tell us. Epiphany, that's the word. Katie says epiphany.
Epiphany, right. I wouldn't have known that one.
I just learned this, so.
I had to wear a hat today having Kerry on because Kerry always wears a hat. And as a person who makes hats, I felt like it was only right that I should. Yeah, I don't mind looking like Badly Drawn Boy. Do you know who that is, Kerry?
Is that a band?
Is he a band or is he just a one-man band? I think he's a one-man band.
The singer?
He's from Bolton, which is just up the road from where I am now. And he does look a little bit like me. He's not your average pop star, put it that way.
Well, can I tell you about this hat before we get into serious
business? Of course,
business?
yeah, go for it.
I don't know if you can see, it says cougar bait.
Oh, yeah.
My husband,
the cougar?
Well, my husband is a musician, and he has a lot of women who come to see him perform in different cities. And he was performing over the Christmas break, and this hat maker, she makes these fancy leather hat, like trucker caps, and she brought it to him and said, "This is anonymous. A woman paid to have this made for you."
Wow.
And he was like,
"For you?
No, for him.
For your husband, right?"
No, yeah. They're saying some woman is saying he's cougar bait. So now we've been.
So now you're just afraid.
Now we've just been thinking. No, it's been a kind of a fun game to imagine, like try to figure out who it is. We were. He was talking to the lady who runs the venue there, and they were trying to guess, could it be this woman or this? And then she was like, "No, not that woman, because she's not a cougar. She's a deaf leopard." Like
literally deaf.
Which is such a funny pun. I love that. Deaf leopard bait. Better
than a Led Zeppelin.
A Led Zeppelin, yes. That's a Led Zeppelin bait. Anyway, we can't figure it out. So then he was like, "You should wear the hat. That's pretty funny." So anyway.
You should say, tell everyone what your husband's site is, because I follow him now on YouTube. And I do actually like his music. It's not a British thing, because it's very. How would you describe it? It's not country, is it? But it kind of is.
Kind of. It's like old school country mixed with Spanish guitar, Mexican, and it's just old West. I would describe it as Western. In fact, he gets and he does classical piano. So the best description I've ever heard of his music in a magazine was they called it cinematic Americana. Because you can really kind of picture a Western film when you hear it. And if you want to check him out, anybody who's watching, you can find him at Anthony Garcia Music. Make sure you put music on there, because there's another Anthony Garcia who's a murderer, and that's not him.
Well, you've just, speaking of murders, 12 o'clock last night, opposite where I live in the park, a man was murdered, stabbed to death.
What?
So today, there's just been police everywhere. And if I'd have been looking at my I wouldn't, because it would have been pitch black, but I would have seen it if it was daylight, and, it's that close. So at the moment, all the forensic tents are up and everything, and the, what do they call it when they cordon off with tape? So no idea. about what's happened or who it was, but it's interesting. I wanted to tell the American people watching, because we don't have as much we do have gun crime, but not on the scale that you guys have. But we have knife crime instead. So if you don't have one, you'll have the other.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's crazy. And the funny thing is, people will think it's me that's murdered him. But when I lived in London, somebody was murdered, stabbed to death on my doorstep there as well. So it's like it's following me around.
Oh,
I mean, I'm not
it's
laughing because he's died.
crazy.
I'm just laughing because it's such a, odd.
It's such an odd thing, yeah, to
Yeah.
have that happen so close to you. Yeah.
Here we go. Yeah, this is the point. Yeah, I thought the British didn't hurt each other because of no guns. We hurt each other with our words.
You guys also, do you ever have you ever had any mass stabbings like in Asia? I know they've had like, it's just
I
crazy
don't.
to imagine that as an American, because the
Yeah.
weapon of choice, if some crazy nut job's gonna try and take out a lot of people here, would be the gun. But when you don't have that, I was shocked the first time I heard about a mass stabbing. I'm like, that's
Yeah,
insane.
China had a lot, didn't they, at one point in
Yeah.
train stations and things like that. I don't think we've had a mass stab. We may have done. I don't think so. We've had machete attacks, which is kind of similar, but
Crazy.
that scares me more than any of the other types. I'd rather be shot than be attacked with a machete. I know you may survive a machete attack. How have we got onto this so quick?
This is the worst game of would you rather.
Okay, here's one. Would you rather acid attack, or have your legs and arms chopped off?
What? No, neither. What? I can't play this game. I don't. I feel like then you'll get your. If you say something, if you pick one, it's awful, and then you're kind of
Oh, you have to do one.
jinxing yourself. Yeah, no, neither.
Okay, would you rather have Christmas Day or New Year's Day?
Oh, Christmas Day. Although New Year's Day, but again, before I'm sorry, I'm taking up all your time with this. Here's a tradition I started with my husband a few years ago, and it really changed things for me. And maybe people want to do it on their New Year's Day. I had previously I'd also been a drinker, a big drinker,
yeah.
and so my New Year's days were, you wake up in the middle of the day like, oh, you have a little too much the night before. But then my husband and I got sober together, and we do usually on New Year's Day just get up early, go for a sunrise hike, so you can watch the sun come in, and then you make it memorable. So when you think back to like, what did you do on New Year's Day? You try to make it memorable. And then I also like to bring in, there's a superstition about you should not do anything on New Year's Day that you don't want to spend the rest of the year doing a lot of. And you should do things that you want to spend the rest of the year doing a lot of. And so we'll usually just make a list like, okay, we're gonna cook something delicious. We're gonna laugh a lot. You just plan your day with like, I'm gonna learn one new thing, or whatever. It's symbolic of what you want to spend the rest of the year
My
doing.
mind's thinking, make money, and all the hedonistic types of things that you might want to do.
That hasn't made my list yet. Maybe that's why I need to put that. Okay.
Oh, I just need to say, Saison's in the chat. Feel free to jump in whenever you want, Saison. If you don't want to, don't worry. You don't have to. I don't want to bully you into coming on the show. But the link, if you want to find the link, it's in the shared chat that we were having on Instagram. So feel free to come on whenever you want to. So we've managed to redeem ourselves from the murdering thing. So shall we dive in? What we were going to do today, we will go off on tangents, no doubt, because we always talk about random things, don't we? But I want to go through issue 2 of Blocked, and I know you've read it, and I know you've got lots of things to say. And feel free to criticize it, because this was the last issue that I did completely, well, I'd say on my own. It was the one where I did all of the formatting, which I had a lot of criticism for, until you got me the great graphic designer BS Designs, who has taken over since. So all of the dodgy fonts, they're all on me. So
I didn't even notice that. So
I was thinking, oh, she's seen it so bad, she's had to find me a graphic designer to help me. Here we go. Are you ready? So everybody, welcome Saison. Hello.
Hi.
How you
Sorry,
doing?
I didn't realize it was the older link.
Ah, right. Oh, sorry. I thought that might be the reason. But can you solve a mystery for everyone? Because I've been calling you Cezanne, and I know people who call you Cezanne, but which do you normally use?
Sorry, my voice is going in and out still. It's actually Cezanne or Cezanne.
Ah,
Either?
so it
Either
is
one.
Cezanne.
Okay.
The actually correct one is Cezanne, but most people call me Cezanne.
Ah, and you,
My mother said it wrong all my life.
yeah, and I have to say you're not very well at the moment. So if you need to go, feel free to go because I know you've got a really dodgy throat,
I
haven't you?
feel fine. My voice just likes to cut in and out. Oh, hello. Kitty
Hi,
wants to say
Kitty.
hello.
Oh, what's your cat called?
This is Tabby, Tabitha Twitchit.
Tabby.
Oh,
Oh, I see you have a cat on your shirt also. A Christmassy
Yep,
cat.
it's my Noel kitty.
Aw.
oh, that's cute. Yeah, and for anybody that doesn't know, Cezanne is one of, well, originally the only proofreader, but now one of we've got a small team together. So
Yes.
I can tell you now, without her, the magazine would not have got beyond. I don't know where, but because you've saved my my neck a few times, haven't you, over these months? Yeah, because
I'm
Cezanne
glad
even
'cause it's
writes
good.
things for us. Sorry, go on, say that.
I'm glad because it's a good magazine.
Oh, thank you. So, well, what we'll do now. So, you actually proved some of this issue, so you remember doing it hopefully as well. So we'll start going. So I'll put the magazine on the screen, and so I mentioned the cover yesterday when I was talking to Amy because the people that don't like me and don't like the magazine accused me of stealing this image off Christy Glass. They thought that it was her, and it isn't. It's the photographer's wife, and the photographer's wife is actually one of us knitters, and she may be watching at the moment. I don't know whether she's watching now or she might do later. And they designed this themselves. So the idea behind it is that they were trying to silence us. So as soon as the first issue was due to be released, they tried to get it taken down, and well, they did get it taken down for a while, and I got it back up, and then they took that down, and then I got it back up, and so on. It went on for a while. So that was what the meaning of this cover is. And one of the biggest critiques that I've had is my use of the fonts on this cover, because they were saying things like the only one he didn't use was papyrus. Is it papyrus?
Oh, they were
Papyrus.
criticizing you for using lots of fonts?
Yeah, I mean, I was having a bit of a,
Well, who
I was
cares?
playing.
It looked great. What a stupid thing to that's when you know you're scraping the bottom of the barrel of complaints like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
used too many fonts."
That is one of my favorite covers. I think this
Ah,
is, if not one of it's I love this one.
it's
'Cause
so
there's
good,
just,
isn't it? And
yeah, there's just so much that it says. That image is
yeah.
so great.
Well, it should have been the first cover for issue one. I mean, you remember because we had a chat about this, didn't we, Cezanne? But
Yeah.
I chickened out. I kind of thought, oh, it's a bit, and I went with
Yeah.
the jumper, the sweater, which
Yeah.
I'm glad I did in the end, because this kind of fitted more with what happened after the release of issue one. So it kind of all worked out well. Oh, we got a bit of an echo there, haven't we? Excuse that. This then inside here. So if we look down the list, we can see Cezanne at the bottom there, and Denise was one of our other is one of our other proofreaders, and I just need to mention here, I had a friend who took some photographs of my hands as I was doing a technique that's later in the magazine, and people managed to find out who he was and wrote to his employer and said that he was connected to a white supremacist magazine, and he was called into HR. And the funny thing was, he was able to show them the magazine, and they all ended up having a really good laugh about it, and then talking about how evil some of these knitters are. And the HR manager said, "Oh, I'm going out of here now. I'm going to ring my grandmother," he said, "because she's a knitter, and I'm worried about her." In case she was involved in any of this nonsense. But
That's
the
how
lengths they
crazy
go
they
to.
are. The links they go
Oh,
to I mean, it's funny because you're critiquing with the magazine, you're offering, knitting patterns and commentary and crochet patterns, but you're offering commentary on the ways in which they are toxic and hateful bullies, and the ways in which they try and ruin people, and what do? They prove you right by
yeah,
targeting everyone here in
yeah.
your credit list.
Well, just before going live, I posted 2 short videos of things that people will have seen before, but it's a couple of videos of how hard they tried, things that they shared and things they lied about to try and get me taken down. And I just thought, it's time to share that now, let people see it, because all of the magazines are out there. You can go and look and check to see if what they said was true, But anyway, yeah. So you said, Kerry, that you wanted to mention something about the introduction, didn't you? That I've written here on the right.
Oh, well, I just think everyone should read it. Here, let me see if I can enlarge that so I can look at it.
Can I zoom in?
Oh wait, actually, it's
Is it the letter? Is it the letter?
it's
on
the
this
letter,
line?
Dear Knitfluencers. I like
Yeah.
both, but I really like both. But I think that the
Oops.
Dear Knitfluencers letter is so good that you should screenshot it, make a standalone image of this letter, and share it everywhere, because I can imagine people in the geeks and gamers community, the nerdrotic community, people who've dealt with cancel culture and entertainment and pop culture and whatnot, they will get a lot out of this as well. It's the same thing.
Right.
And you're
I will.
so, I love it because you're so plain spoken, and you just, the thing is, con artists and liars and bullies try and obfuscate the fact that there's not a lot of meaning to what they're saying, or they try to obfuscate the real meaning to what they're saying by using overly complicated language and obscuring the fact that there's either no meaning or it's a ridiculous meaning. They're hiding what's at the center of they don't want the listener to actually understand them, because if the listener understood them, they'd be like, this is either crap or there's nothing here.
Yeah.
Right, nothing of substance.
The
But you don't do
latest
that.
one. Yeah, the latest one I love is the one they talk about, the stochastic terrorism.
Oh,
Do you
right.
remember that? Because that's come up now, isn't it?
It's
Oh yeah, we've got a
ridiculous
big
concept.
word. Yeah, and so your letter here is great because you do what Jordan Peterson does well. Jordan Peterson is very intelligent, probably one of the most intelligent people I've ever listened to. But
Wow,
he
you're
doesn't.
comparing me to Jordan Peterson?
Yes, because
I'm
you
the
do.
stupidest man in all existence, Kerry.
Well, in this letter, you do what he does, which is you make yourself understood and you don't use overly complicated language and you get straight to the point. Fighting racism with racism is not acceptable. That's what you say, period. It doesn't need to be more complicated than that.
That's the teacher in me. Turning something complicated into something as simple as possible. Yeah, these it's 5 points, isn't it? Fighting. Shall I do my my audiobook voice?
Yeah, do it.
So, fighting racism with racism is not acceptable. Fighting fascism with fascism is not acceptable. Fighting white supremacy with black supremacy is not acceptable. Fighting patriarchy with matriarchy is not acceptable. I get bored now. Fighting toxic masculinity with toxic femininity is not acceptable.
Yep.
Because that is what they're doing, isn't it, really? The tactics they use are the very things they accuse the other people of doing in the first place. Yeah, we had this letter. Oh, so go on.
Well, I also love in the paragraph above that. Oh my gosh, this is so good. Many of you have stood by quietly, supported, or in some cases even joined in or led with the bullying and nastiness. This is no longer tolerable. In the name of protecting the self-declared marginalized, you have directly or indirectly marginalized thousands of others. The fate of some of the targets of harassment, hatred, threats, and ostracization has been far, far more harmful than any of the imagined microaggressions described by their attackers. It's so, this is the kind of letter that you tack to the doors of people's homes. You know what I mean? Like, we are done.
Should I start my own religion?
Yeah.
Isn't this, Tabitha will tell us, isn't this the thing that Luther nailed to the door or something?
Yeah. Nail this to the door.
Yeah, I shared that letter with a lot of my friends that aren't knitters, and they're going, yeah, that happened in the gaming community, or that happened in this community, and that it's not just us, it's everywhere, and everyone loved it.
Yes.
The letter, not the canceling.
Right.
Yeah. I can't even remember writing it now because it's over a year since I wrote this, or about a year, I think. Yeah, it will be, won't it? I would have written it in over this time last year because it was in the first issue as well. But the reason why we took it out of the magazine in the end was because we were going to have it in every issue at the beginning, but it kind of felt like we were telling this to the wrong people. The people that need to read it aren't the ones who are going to go and read the magazine. The people that are going to read this already know this. And it just feels like to keep saying it didn't feel like the right thing to do. I mean, we may put it back in again at another, or put parts of it back in, maybe. I don't know.
I think that you might actually red pill some people with this magazine, though. Not that you need to leave this in for every episode. I don't have an opinion on that. But I do think that your magazine is the kind of thing, just like my podcast, where there are some people who start off hate watching or on the fence or some, with a certain opinion of you, but still open-minded enough to over time come around. I think you're going to, if you haven't already, at some point, you're going to get letters from people who are like, I misjudged you. I'm sorry.
That'd be cool, actually, if that did happen.
That'd be great.
The reason why I'm decided to do this, what we're doing now, is because after a year, I feel like after 6 issues, I've kind of planted. I'm planted now. I feel like I'm here, and I'm not just something, because I know initially people were saying things like, "Oh, I'll give him 3 months." I think it was Bitchy Knitter that made a big point of saying that. Give him 3 months. So it's like, well, a year later, I'm still here. So now I can share what we've done, because I feel like we've achieved something, but the fact that we've lasted a year, is pretty amazing, really, when you think what they've tried to do. Because they've not just tried to destroy me, they've tried to destroy anybody they can find out who they are, through this. And some of the things they were saying about us at the beginning were absolutely horrendous. I don't know whether you remember all of that. It was, it's crazy.
I do. They were crazy.
Yeah, and we signed this, the blocked and the cancelled.
I love it. And by the way, the more people you block and cancel, the harder it is for you to keep blocking and canceling people, because the blocked and the canceled start to outnumber your little puritanical mob.
And they find each other.
Who's that guy, Giles Corey?
What? Sorry, what was that? Say that again, Suzanne?
Oh, just and band together. Nothing.
Yeah.
It's like
Giles Corey was the one with the stones.
Yes. And he was part of the witch hunts, the Salem witch trials, and then they came for him. That's your point in this letter too. I like at the end here, you guys are like, or Neil, you say, you may think that you're gonna, skate by buying gifts for the bullies, etc. But eventually, I mean, you make the point, they're gonna come for you too. That's what happens.
And they have done as well. So during this year, there have been a couple of people that have been cancelled that were, should have read this. If they'd have read it, they might have escaped it, Because one of the things that they have been doing, there's a pair of vloggers that are very well known, and they do literally buy their safety. They only buy from certain yarn dyers to make sure that they're okay. They buy them presents constantly. When they hold competitions, it's so nepotistic that it's like so ironic that this particular person wins. It's kind of like, really, out of all the thousands of people that entered, that person won, and that's what I meant by the buying them gifts and things like, because I think that is what is happening. Which is so funny, because one of the article that comes a bit later is exactly what they did back in the day as well, when it was the French Revolution, which we'll get to in a second. They bought these people gifts to stop from being accused, and I think they did in Salem, didn't they? I think they bought the girls gifts.
Oh yeah, they did all kinds of things to try to get the girls to like them and not turn on them, and it didn't work most of the time.
Yeah, I can't even remember. I mean, that's the Crucible is one of my favorite books, which is based on that, isn't it? I know that they changed some of the actual facts of it, but I can't even remember how it all ended now. But speaking of which, sorry, go on, Carrie.
No, but just how sad, by the way, that your relationship with someone is a financial transaction. It's dependent upon a financial transaction. That's so sad.
Well, if you think about it, the couple in question, they've built up their sort of little empire, and they were probably the most well-known vloggers out there in the knitting world, and they need to keep there. They need to stay there, and they've witnessed what happened to people like Christy Glass and Sock Matician, and they know that they'll be destroyed do one step out of line, and that's why they're doing it, because they're scared. Because I do suspect that one of them actually follows me as a different account. I can't prove it, but I do think that one of them does, and I think that secretly one of them, not both of them, but one of them actually supports what we're doing. And I wish I could prove it, but I can't. So so what I'm saying is all speculation, and so don't sue me on that one.
Even if you could prove it, you wouldn't really want to, because maybe eventually they'll see enough and get the courage to say it themselves.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
which
hopefully
is
that
much
would
more
be the case.
effective.
Yeah, I don't think they ever will, though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I think I do think they're quite scared, and they won't do it. So Kerry, you wanted to talk about this article, didn't you?
Love this article.
Tricky juice, is it?
This is just an amazing bit of history that I didn't know about. And you wrote this one.
Ah, cool. I did, yeah.
And the parallels are astounding. I love that you have the little artwork over here with the rouge bonnet. Is that how you say it?
Yep.
And the pussy
hats. And the cat hats.
I don't know how you pronounce it. Cezanne, do you speak French?
Nope.
You got a French name and you don't speak French.
I'm known for a French artist. I can't speak French and I can't draw.
Yeah, I think it's what you said, Kerry. I think. But did you know one thing I didn't know, and when I was researching this, that it's on the Senate seal? The hat is on the Senate seal for America.
No,
so at the bottom here, on the bottom left, I don't know if you can see the well, it's a seal, isn't it? That disc thing. That is the United States Senate seal, and on the top, it's got the French bonnet, because it was linked to liberty. And obviously, France had a big part in America's sort of, what's that part in your constitution? The search for truth, liberty, and something. I don't know, but that's from the French thing, isn't it?
Yeah. It's so I'm not sure if I'm gonna mispronounce this or not, but tricotus.
I thought it was
tricotus.
Tricotus, I think it is. But obviously, if anybody is in if anyone's a French speaker, come on for a second and tell us.
Yeah, let us know.
So these were the women who, during the French Revolution, there are all these myths that have, truth then becomes myth, and it's hard to separate how much of it is just, the myth growing and what are the facts. But these are women who would, you said, roam the streets looking for aristocrats to accuse of being unpatriotic, almost like the Salem witch trials. And they would attend the public beheadings of the revolution and watch people at the guillotine, and they would just be sitting there knitting, and they knitted all these red hats for people that were called the bonnet rouge, which is that hat you're talking about that I had no idea that was on the Senate seal.
Me either.
But it's some of the stories. I mean, we don't know whether these are actually true or whether they're just myths. But one of the stories was that after somebody had had his head chopped off, or she, that one of the tricotus was on the front row and got her bread and dipped it into his neck for the blood and then ate it, which sounds absolutely bizarre now. But if you go back, a few hundred years, that was a source of protein. Blood was something you didn't waste. And the French were known to bleed their horses. If they had no food, they would bleed the horses and cook the blood alive so that the horses didn't die. So, this is real poor, really bad situation. So it's not completely unheard of, but we don't know whether it's true.
And, really, some of the behavior that we've seen lately, it's not too unbelievable that some of those people would do that.
Yeah. Well, put it this way. I think if they put a scaffold up in, the middle of New York and dragged me out and dragged Nathan Taylor out and dragged Christy Clark, I'm sure some of them would be there on the front row, loving every minute of it,
With their knitting and their popcorn.
Yeah. With the bread, waiting to dip it in,
Yeah. They actually probably, if they are aware of this history, maybe some of them are. I wasn't. If they're aware of it, they probably identify with these women. Do you think? Like,
Well,
they
yeah,
probably think
because
they're revolutionaries.
yeah,
Yep.
because the original thing with the hat was that it was a freedom thing. It was a liberty thing. So it originated in Rome, and it was a hat that a freed slave would wear, and that denoted that he was a free man now. And so then the French Revolution, through a series of whatever, I don't know, but for some reason they took on that symbol, and the French Revolution obviously arguably was a good thing, arguably, and unless you were an aristocrat, and then it wasn't a good thing. But these women initially, they were very well loved at the beginning because they supported the revolution, and they were in Parliament when the first wave, because during the revolution or just after the revolution, there was lots of different parliaments that failed, and then a new one was formed, and then another one failed, and a new one was formed. And through a series of these parliaments, they were fated, and they were invited to all of the events, and everybody wanted to be best friends with them because they knew how much power they wielded. But then eventually, how, we don't know, again, it's speculation, with perhaps one of the wrong people's mistress was accused of being an aristocrat or something, but then they were basically thrown out of Parliament, which is when they started to sit outside the guillotine. So they wanted to be seen, and they became a presence that were there, and they were quite an intimidating sight to see, apparently. They were quite scary. They feature in A Tale of Two Cities by Dickens, is it Madame Defarge? Is it Madame Defarge, who's the famous tricketteuse? But in the book, it claims that she used to knit the names of all the people that were executed into her knitting. But I would argue that I don't know. I'm not sure how true that might be, because if you think about doing Intarsia or Fair Isle, it's not something you can do that quickly, is it?
Even just doing like just doing knits and pearls to do the design, that would take planning and a lot of work to do.
I think that becomes a myth. Like I met someone the other day who found out that I was a knitter, and he suddenly said, "Oh, my grand's a knitter. She can knit a jumper in like 5 minutes." It's like, and I said, "What, 5 minutes?" And he went, "Well, no, in an afternoon." And it's like, no.
Depends on who it's for.
Yeah, so I think these myths kind of grow, don't they, and become a bit, ridiculous. But yeah, the parallel with the pussy hat thing was incredible.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and then if you think of people like, on that day of it was called the Women's March, wasn't it? And well, that was the other thing. It's even more incredible is that they had a Women's March in in France. It was actually called the Women's March, and they wore these hats. So whether the people that arranged the Women's March in America knew of this and were deliberately doing this as a parallel, I don't know. But it is quite freaky. It's like a constant circle of history that just keeps repeating itself.
What is it people say? History rhymes.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
And it
doesn't repeat itself, but it rhyms.
I've been hearing that quote a lot this past year. But that's exactly what this reminds me of. The illustration's great.
Yeah.
Oh, I struggled with this because I don't know whether you can see. I'm going to give away some of my secrets now. Can you see down the middle of the crowd? There's kind of like there's a difference in the middle. Can you see? Because what I did is I drew one set of crowd, and then I tried to superimpose the same crowd over the top of it, and it didn't quite work. But I thought, nobody will notice. And nobody did when I've told everyone.
You pointed it out.
Sorry, Cesar, say that again.
Oh, no one did until you pointed it out.
Well, I'm one of those people, when you do some knitting and someone says, "Oh, that looks good," and then you point out the one stitch. It's one of those things I can't help doing.
Yep.
So was there anything else you wanted to comment about this one?
Just the parallels with the Crucible too. I mean, it was those girls, they had no power in that society until they started making these accusations, and then they were the center of everybody's world. They could do anything they want, get anything they want, but then eventually they turned on them when they took it too far.
Yeah.
So and the same thing happened with some of the red hat ladies. And I don't wish harm on the people who are doing it now. I just want them to stop it. Stop it before the crowd has to turn on you.
Before the crowd, yeah.
The interesting thing about the hat, I shared this on with my patron group recently, is the person that originally designed it, which would have been 2, maybe 3 years prior to this, was Andre Sue Knits, who most of the knitters will know. And her hat was called the Kit Kat hat.
Mm-hmm.
And during the time of this Women's March thing, that hat, she said, it was downloaded. It's a free pattern. It was downloaded 16,000 times and used by more experienced knitters, because the one that most people wore was just a square.
Yeah.
You know, with a hole in it, and the points were the ears. Whereas Andre Sue's had a little bit of shaping, and you had to be a knitter to be able to do it. Whereas a lot of people, that was their first knitting project, was to make this sort of square hat. And I think Andy now is kind of quite sort of sad that her pattern has been sort of misused in this way. And we did talk about trying to reclaim it back, and it is something that I am thinking about doing, but I know so many people are so against it now because of what it means. And one of the ways I was thinking of claiming it back was to have it as an ugly cat hat, an ugly hat, you know, and have it based on cats, literal cats, you know, so not have it in one color and have it, you know, like a tabby one or whatever, you know. But then the thing is if you were wearing it somewhere that people didn't know of all the other things going on, they might assume you were part of the Women's March that day, you know. So it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one.
And I love cats. I love all things cats, obviously. And I love the little kitty cat ear hat, but I don't want to wear it because I don't want people to think I'm associated with that.
Yeah. It's like they wouldn't want to wear a MAGA hat. It's the same, isn't it?
They want to wear red baseball caps.
That's what you have to do to reclaim it. You have to take, not because I'm huge into MAGA hats, I don't own one, but because that is the thing they hate the most. And it's like kryptonite. You should take that and combine the two. So you should make the pussy hat design, but make it red and put knit MAGA into it. And then that's how you reclaim it. And then if enough of those get out there, they would become associated with MAGA and they'd stop wearing it.
That's a really good idea.
I remember at the time
I
remember at the time that it was all happening. I used to do a guest spot on a vlog called Knitter Be Damned, it was called, and I just used to do 5 minutes, and I wanted to design a flat cap, a knitted flat cap that was yellow. And it would emulate Donald Trump's hair, you know, at the front. And I just never got round to doing it. But I wish I had, because, you know, I'd had it as the Trump hat.
How funny. One thing I was going to say about this before you move on.
Oh, yeah.
Or just quickly. It's not really, it's just it's not about the article specifically. It's just about something I saw this morning that reminds me of it, is this whole ideology and what it boils down to. And, you know, you're talking about how in the knitting world there are now all these people who bow to the mob and defer to people based on their sex or sexuality or race, and I saw this thing this morning that just cracked me up, but it was so illustrative. It was a screenshot someone had taken of an interaction on Facebook Marketplace where one person asked the seller, you know, hey, is this item still available for sale? And the seller says, yes. And then the person says, would you consider donating it for free to a queer POC couple? And the seller says, no. And then the prospective buyer says, racist. And I just...
Racist, homophobe.
Yeah, and I just had to laugh because here's the thing about it. And if any haters are watching, here's the thing about your ideology. And it used to be my ideology. When you start waking up to it, you realize this is every ideology, every belief system has the potential to be corrupted and misused by bad actors who want to use it as a shield to take advantage of and abuse others and manipulate and control others. Every ideology throughout history has been misused and abused. It can be. Yeah. But this ideology, social justice, when you boil it down to its essential nature, that's not a corruption of it. That's not it being misused. That's what it is. That's a feature, not a bug. It is at its essential nature. It says some people are morally better than others because of their race or sex or sexuality, and it is often used in this way, which is a feature of the ideology, to harm other people and say, look, you need to celebrate me or reward me or give me something or pay me deference or take my words more seriously than other people's, or my opinions more seriously, or my pain more seriously. You need to treat me differently because of my virtuous moral race or sex or sexuality or identity. And if you don't, you're a bad person.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Exactly that. Yeah. Yeah. We can pack up and go now.
Okay, sorry.
You've wrapped it all up.
Clip that. That's what it is. Okay. But it's not a bug. That's what the belief system is. It's not like, oh, this is when you abuse woke. That's what happens. Like, give me free stuff because I'm queer and a person of color. No, that's what it is.
Yep.
It's like a shakedown, isn't it? It's like, what do we have here? We have, what do they call it? The mafia do it where, unless you pay protection racket. It's
yeah,
like
protection money.
Yeah, it's a bit like that, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've talked about these dissidents yesterday, so I don't need to talk about those again. Now this is, I can't say who this is. Oh, I almost said it. I've got to stop myself speaking now. It's by someone who was cancelled, and it's a brilliant article. And I've learned a lot from this article, and I really encourage anybody who can to read it. It isn't knitting related specifically. I think knitting might be mentioned in there, but anybody in any field would benefit from reading this. Because there are some things like, because even say in our world now, so where we are, any of us could still be cancelled, by our friends that we have now. Any of us could be. So it's one of the things that she says in this is to remember that online friends are not the same as your friends. They can be friends and they can become friends, but they are online friends, and to remember that and to kind of categorize it, because once they all go, like if you think about, say, Christy Glass or whoever, once they've gone, and if you haven't kept your real friends cultivated, you're going to feel very, very lonely and very, very sad and bereft of what goes on in your life. And the way she writes about all this, you can tell she's experienced it, or he, because it could be a man. It's very, very good. I mean, did you manage to read it before?
Yes, it reminds me of excellent advice. And I was lucky enough to get to do a roundtable interview with some cancelees, including Marie Busky from Skeins, who wrote a piece for this issue. I think that one's coming up next. And Maria Tuscan of Tuscan Knits, and Little Ragamuffin, who was in the chat earlier. I saw her here. I don't know if she's still here.
Oh, is she there? Ah, brilliant.
Yeah, and the three of them basically gave advice of as people who have been canceled, what advice would you give others? And one of these on here, I think, is excellent, that somebody was saying limit your screen time, like you were saying, focus on your real relationships, because you can spiral down. And this isn't even just if you're the target of a cancel mob, but let's say you're the target of a sociopath, or let's say you're the target of, I don't know, just people are upset with you for some, just in general, there's a lot of toxicity online. And I think sometimes human nature, and also if you're a public person or you have a business, like a knitting business or a podcast or something, there are going to be haters. It doesn't even have to be a cancel mob, just haters. And people tend to focus on the negative. And back when I was, I used to manage comedians my old life. And one of the comics I managed, I had to talk about this with him repeatedly, because he would, on Twitter or what have you, he would get 100 positive comments and then one negative one, and he would obsess over the negative one, and it would color his whole outlook on things. And it's like, dude, you're watering the wrong garden, you're watering the weeds. And he would like write replies to the negative comments, but never to the positive ones. It's like, you're showing like, either limit your screen time or water the right garden, like water the positivity.
Well, I'm glad you've said that, because one of the things I did at the end of this issue was, and I was a bit worried thinking, everyone's going to think I'm sort of, bragging or showing off, but I put all of the positive reviews, well, not all, but the ones that I could put, because there were some from people that I couldn't have put for different reasons, because I'd focused a lot on the negative stuff on my Instagram. And I thought, no, that isn't getting into the magazine. I want to put the, you know, real, and because some of the feedback was fantastic. You know, there were people saying things like, you know, I finally feel like I belong again, you know, and things like that really kind of choke you up, you know, because you think, wow, that's affected somebody. This little game I've been playing, you know, doing my fonts or whatever, you know, it's kind of has actually reached somebody. You know, somebody feels better because this exists, and that, you know, it does make you feel good.
That's what it's about. And you have to do both, I think. And just quickly, someone in the chat says that there's some feedback. I can hear it also, like a fan or some noise.
I think what it'll be, I think it's Cezanne, because I think what it is, it's because the speaker, when it's playing the audio, it's being picked up by the speaker, because we've both got our earphones and our, so I think, I'm not sure what we can do. Yeah, you're not doing anything, it's doing it, isn't it?
Okay, I'm going to mute my thing and see if it goes away.
Right, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah, it's definitely
so
that.
you can.
Okay, I actually have a fan going. So do you think it's the fan, or do you think it's the feedback from the computer?
It could be either, couldn't it? I'm not sure really.
Sounds better now, though. Actually.
Yeah, it seems okay now.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail on the sound.
Okay, because I had my phone sitting on the computer, so I think it was causing the, like, right where the speaker was. So I think it was causing it to echo there. So if it's gone now, I moved the phone and now it's gone. So
that's better. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Neil, I wanted to show you this. As a woke ally, I only use the Black people Band-Aids because there were only 13.
Let me put you on. Full screen because I
just cut myself. But my husband and I were laughing at this because they started making these Band-Aids for different skin colors, and Black people are only 13% of the population in the U.S. And so I'm doing my part as a white ally to make sure that the Black Band-Aids continue to stay on the shelves, because if only 13% of the population is buying them, and if a corporation is making choices based on profits, then those Band-Aids are not gonna stay on the shelves. And so I just wanted to say that not all heroes wear capes. Some of us wear Black Band-Aids.
Yes.
I need to buy some because as a Black woman, I need to have my skin color represented.
Well, see, Neil is a Black woman, and see, I used to be Black, but now I'm not.
Okay.
My maiden name was Black.
Oh, funny.
So I've confused many people with that one, but as a former Black, I should also get the Black Band-Aids.
Yes.
Absolutely. So what? I've lost my thing now. Where's it gone? Here we go. Right, so we've done that one, and so now we're up to. How do you say Marie's last name? Is it Busky or Busk?
Busky.
Busky.
Yeah, I thought. Busky.
Marie wrote a few articles for us actually, and they were really good as well, because the good thing about Marie is that she has such a lot of knowledge about the yarn industry, things that perhaps yarn dyers who do it from their own home wouldn't necessarily have, because she, if people don't know, she does she run it? Is she the owner, or is she? I think she's a part owner, isn't she, in a mill and a yarn store? So she'll kill me for saying this, but any questions about yarn, Marie will normally know the answer. Whether she's got the time to answer it or not is a different question. So she we got some criticism for this article as well, and I just thought, get a grip, because it was they know the rules and break them anyway, as if that was somehow.
I love this article.
Yeah, I mean, it reminded me of the whole mask wearing thing. It's like they're so obsessed with their rules that they agree with that I don't think they can consider breaking a rule. They're just like little can't say the word, automatons or whatever you call it. That's the word, yes. And just to criticize this article about doing your own knitting and not worrying about the rules, it was just bizarre. But...
Well, here the thing about this is that you have to know the rule. It's good to know the rules. So if there's a rule follower listening who really hates the idea of breaking the rules, I understand why you are find comfort in and why you value rule following. I do. You have to know the rules though to be able to break them well. That's why I have an issue with a lot of postmodern art, because a lot of the people who are getting elevated in art galleries, they're not talented, and they don't know the rules, and they don't know how to break them in a way that's actually worth looking at.
Well, it's like Picasso, isn't it? Picasso and
Yes.
Lowry. I don't know if you know Lowry. Lowry's the
I don't know
Salford
Lowry.
artist, and he did matchstick men. You know, very, very basic. But his early work were realistic portraits, same as Picasso. That's how he started. And it's like, well, you're allowed to do what they did if you can prove that you have the skill in the first place.
Because then you have the talent to actually create and work outside those boundaries and do something that's very masterful, because you've mastered everything before that, and you know how to skillfully break the rules. And it's very different than just coming in and saying, you don't need to know the rules, just take a needle and some yarn and just sling it all over, and that's different. But once you know them and can skillfully break them, yes, of course, take those creative challenges and risks, and that's where genius comes from.
Absolutely. The next article was written by it's Natasha. It's not her real name, but she, at the time of writing, I think, was only 14 years old. Maybe even 13. I can't remember. Her mother contacted me just to make sure it's all above board, so people don't need to worry. She really wanted to write an article for the magazine, because obviously her mum, I think she's a knitter as well, but her mum obviously showed her the issue 1, and it must have resonated with her, and she wrote this article for us. And I mean, I think she's doing exams and things now, so she's really busy. But if she's ever free, if she's watching now, write something else. Feel free, because it was a great little article. She did get some bad feedback, because obviously it's about cultural appropriation, and that is a big issue amongst the woke, isn't it? And we are going to revisit this again, because there's a lot to say about cultural appropriation. I might even do an entire issue on it, because I think there's enough to talk about. The issue here was that a kimono had been designed by, I believe it was a white woman. So no Japanese were harmed in the making of this kimono, but lots and lots of white people were very upset.
It's so silly, because as Natasha points out, and it's a great piece. If you're watching, I agree. You should keep writing. But that's what it is. It is based on a kimono. So what they're doing is they're actually erasing people of color, and they're erasing the cultural contributions of people of color by saying you can't call a kimono, or you can't do, or even the stuff that we've seen at supermarkets where they've taken
Aunt Jemima.
Land O'Lakes, Aunt Jemima, Land O'Lakes. That woman, the Native American woman that was on the Land O'Lakes butter, that was designed by a Native American artist, and they've completely disappeared her now. And
Aunt Jemima was the first spokesperson, and she made so much money on that, and she was so proud of being a Black woman who was a spokesperson whose face was on these things, and they've taken her away now.
Disappeared.
Wasn't she the first self-made Black millionaire in America as well? Well, maybe female Black millionaire. Yeah, because the thing, going back to the kimono thing, the fact that you call something a kimono immediately tips a hat to what the original design is anyway. So you're acknowledging where it's from by calling it a kimono, or by having dreadlocks if you're white. By calling it dreadlocks, you're acknowledging what the cultural implication of that is. Trying to it's not even whitewashing, is it? It's either blackwashing or Chinese washing or whatever. It's ridiculous.
And it's also, again, you're trying to strike the word kimono from, so that you're erasing this part of Japanese culture and design and clothing, because if you mention it in the wrong way, it's bad. Or this design that she's talking about here was clearly based on a kimono. That's what you call it. You don't say this is the I'm calling this the shirtwaist dress, because it's not. That's not what it is.
That's not what it is.
It's like I used to work with this comedian Margaret Cho, who's Korean American, and she used to have this joke that was so good, where she occasionally, just when woke was getting kicked off and started off culturally, she started to get some hate mail from fans, people who had always liked her, who are like, I don't like when you do your mom's accent because it's racist to do that thick Korean accent. And she's like, how am I supposed to imitate my mom? That's what she sounds like. Like, that's am I supposed to do like a British accent? That's not her.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? Absolutely ridiculous. Oh, I don't know. Oh, this article. This was I wrote this one, but it was edited by Andy from Andre Sunitz, because Andy did the actual mock-up of the cover there as well, because that's her design. And I just wrote about what everyone had said about the first issue and before it and afterward, and basically we know what's in it, but we've not read it. It's disgusting. It's a boring,
don't read it.
Yeah. But the fact that they did that meant that more people actually read it. So I think at the moment, it's 22 or 24,000 people have read the first issue.
Wow.
But most of that is, probably the car crash effect. They want to see how bad it really was. And if you think over 20,000 people have read it, not one person has actually been able to take a screenshot and say, here's the racism. There's a video that I've shared on YouTube before. It's the one before this one where Hey Jay Yarn, she's called, tries to do that, where she's in front of the screen and she's kind of showing things behind. You can't see it. And she's kind of making things up. She said, oh, and this is racist, and it's like, well, what is it? What exactly is racist that you're pointing to?
Show me the racism.
Yeah. And you just think, out of all those people, not one of you has been able to prove it. So how can you still say it?
Because they're hoping other people won't read it and know that they're just lying.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
They never show evidence.
Yeah.
Liars. They never show it. They can't put it on the screen. They're telling you what to think without showing you the source material, the evidence of what they're saying, and letting you make up your own mind. And
well,
it's like a smoke and mirrors
I've read
thing.
it, so you don't have to.
Exactly.
Which apparently isn't that a Marxist thing? Isn't that what Karl Marx used to say, or somebody who was a big Marxist in the early days of the communist stuff? I'm sure that's what they used to say. Not that I remember it. I wasn't there.
I like on this cover of this little Blocked magazine graphic on the right, you've got 8 disgusting and abhorrent patterns inside.
Yeah, read at your own risk.
Disgusting.
Yeah, how to tell what is inside a magazine without ever reading
Without actually opening it.
And then I think at the top that was I can't even remember drawing this now, but I did the what are they called? Is it NPCs? Are they called?
Yeah.
Or NCPs? And I think
NPC.
it's something like, where's the racism or something. I can't even read it now. Let me zoom in. I did do this, honestly. I forget what I've done.
Block magazine should be canceled for being racist, says the NPC.
And then that's me. Say, really, which parts of the magazine were racist? And then it's them trying to think.
Just mad.
Cannot answer. Do not know answer.
Can't compute. Yeah. So I'd read this because Andy changed. Because when I first wrote it, I think it was quite. I think I was a bit angry when I wrote it, so it was quite confrontational. And I sent it to Andy knowing that it was like that. And I said, look, what do you think? Because at the very beginning, I have to say as well, a huge thank you to Andy. Because when I first came up with this idea of doing it, Andy and I had lots of online messaging, where it was just throwing ideas backwards and forwards. Some were crazy that we didn't do, but sometimes you meet someone who just fires that creative instinct in you, and Andy is one of those people because she is so creative herself. She kind of brings it out of you, and she's really helped me with a lot of the stuff in the early issues of the magazine, and she rewrote some of this to make it a little more humorous because it was a little bit dark. So
it sounds very positive now.
Oh yeah, that's Andy. Anything positive is Andy's touch.
She did a good job.
Yeah, I mean, we should have credited her really, but she was happy just to have the mock-up And I think it was Andy's husband who came up with the idea for the mock-up as well. I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly on that. Then this is always my favourite part of the magazine. It's
Love Lazy Knitter.
Yeah, the laziest knitters, or the lazy knitters guide to whatever. And this particular article is good if you... It's kind of written to people who are sick of it all. You know, sick of all the nastiness and sick of all the backbiting, and because I remember after the whole Ravelry thing a few years back, whenever that was, I can't even remember now. Was it 2018, 2019? There was a period where I didn't want to knit.
Yeah.
It just took away any kind of pleasure through. I just thought, why am I doing this? Why am I even bothering? And I know a lot of people have felt like that at different times for different reasons.
I know so many people who had the same thing after the Ravelry debacle.
Yeah. Well, it was really kind of hurtful in a non-personal kind of way. It was sort of... I just remember thinking, why? What is this about? And then seeing how gleeful some of the people were. I mentioned Very Pink Knits yesterday, and I'm going to mention it again because people don't realize this, but after the whole Ravelry thing, to celebrate, she offered a free pattern. Like, now they've all gone.
Don't tell me that. I love her videos. Don't tell
oh
me
yeah,
don't.
I do.
Too.
I still watch them. Don't get me wrong. I still watch the videos because she's very informative. But I challenged her on it, and she blocked me, as they do. But that was kind of the level of mentality that was going around at the time. Like we were a problem. I think they genuinely felt that we were racist nationalists. Crazy.
Well, we know that Neil is definitely a nationalist American. He follows Trump and wants make America great again.
Oh yeah, one of the things I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but they were so... It's not racist, but it's xenophobic, isn't it? One of the insults was because I was British.
Mm-hmm.
As if like that was an insult.
Because you're a colonialist.
Yeah, but the thing about that is like, well, no, I'm not a colonialist because I haven't colonized. I'm here.
Never went anywhere.
Yeah, it's the person who's accusing me of being a colonialist. They're the descendants of colonialists, because you're abroad. To me,
you Brits and your tea.
Yeah, it was Brits and I'm giving the world everything.
Yep. How dare you send your organization and your non-racist tendencies, and how dare you spread that to the rest of the world?
Yeah, how dare we spread rule of law and fairness? Yeah. And some great illustrations here, by the way. I didn't do these. I prefer... It's funny, isn't it? When you are an artist, you prefer other people's artwork over your own. And I wish I could do artwork like this, but I can't do it. I think I talked about the Carlas yesterday, so no need to mention those. And this was a funny one. I don't know if anybody even read this, but somebody asked me if I could write an article that would teach crocheters how to knit, because it is quite a difficult step to transfer over if you're not, if you see, I think it's easier for a knitter to become a crocheter, but I think it is hard for a crocheter to become a knitter. So I wrote this, and I've not had any feedback, good or bad, about it at all.
Okay.
So
my daughter-in-law liked it.
Sorry, say that again?
My daughter-in-law is a crocheter, and she's had me try a couple times to teach her how to knit, and it doesn't really work, and she liked the article.
Did it work? Did she try it?
Quite a lot. So yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's good.
My lessons made more sense after she read the article. So
yeah, because the thing that I realized is that the knit stitch is just a slip stitch in crochet, really. Yeah. That's all it is. And the other thing afterwards, because I like to put something historical in every issue. So I've been researching the stilt walkers in France, that knitted on stilts. I'm going to be writing an article about that.
Hey.
And as I was researching it, I was really shocked to learn that this is how they knitted. They used crochet hooks to knit. So again, it's nothing new. You think you're coming up with a new idea, but other people have been doing it before anyway.
There's nothing new under the sun.
Exactly, yeah. So so these are the photos that I got a mate to take that got him pulled into his HR office. So, look how hateful it is. It's like, will nobody save that blue yarn?
They're white hands. They should be black.
They're white.
Yeah, clearly that was it. Yeah.
They should be cat hands.
Yes.
Oh, I wish. So I was going to do a Pearl version as well, but I didn't get any feedback if anybody. So if anybody does want the Pearl version, let me know and I will do one. But if nobody's interested, I won't bother because it was quite a lot of effort doing that. I mentioned this yesterday. This was my what do they call it? The 5th grade attempt at Photoshop.
Better than I could do.
It's great.
Well, looking at it now, I think, oh god, yeah, it was a bit, weird. So that was the advert. Then this, I was sick of everybody saying after the first issue that the magazine was just targeting black women. So for the drop stitch of the month, I chose Justin Trudeau for this issue, and lo and behold, they've never ever mentioned it. They've never mentioned the fact that I targeted a white man. In I was going to say in France, in Canada, and the reason why we targeted him was because of the whole truckers thing, because of what he said. Which, interestingly, now he's denying he said. He's saying that he didn't do that. So sorry, say that again. I missed what you said then.
They keep trying to deny it, but it's like it exists. We can prove it.
Yeah, you'd think that they didn't know about cameras and videos, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But this one is probably the last time I'm going to have someone who isn't a knitter, because I think afterwards, after it was published, I was thinking, really, should he have been in it? Because he isn't a knitter.
Yeah.
It was like just choosing someone for the sake of it, really. But I think at the time, because I could have had Fatima here as the drop stitch of the month, and the only reason I didn't was just to try and avoid having another black woman as the drop stitch. But this, I don't know whether either of you read this one.
Here's my advice on that. Not that you asked, but it doesn't. But it doesn't matter. The thing is, they want us to look at each other based on race and sex and sexuality, and the minute you start doing that for any reason, even if it's just to prove them wrong, then you're doing what they want. I had a friend who a non-woke friend who was talking to me a year or two ago about doing a book together. And I was like, yeah, sure. She was pitching me her idea for the book. And I was like, yeah, I think that I was interested in it. And then she was like, well, we should also ask a black woman so that we have a woman of color. So there should be 3 of us, because she's white, my friend. And I was like, no, like, not unless there is a woman that you want to ask and she happens to be black. But it's so easy to fall into that trap that they set for you, where it's like, I want you to pay attention to these things. I got you to pay attention to them, didn't I? In this way, right? Not that you asked for my opinion, but that, like, who cares? What if every person that you feature who's being a bully for 6 months in a row happens to be a black person? That's what it happened to be. It's probably not always going to be the case, but anyway.
I'm going to do a tally chart. Do you call them tally charts? Do you say the same thing? Where you do 1, 1, 1, 1, and then you cross the 5th one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do that, and I'm going to, label it, white man, white woman, black man, black woman, LGBT, and then I'm going to. So everyone I've ever featured,
make fun of it, yeah,
and just say this is the list, and then because the guarantee is that it's going to be white women. More white women are going to have been criticized in my magazine than anybody else.
Well, because there's a lot of white women who are part of this now, and who are the main enforcers and the main bullies.
Yeah, I mean, they never ever mentioned the supermarket sisters from issue 1. They never mentioned the fact that I drew them and mocked them. It's like they don't matter. It's quite funny, really. But going back to Fatima here, I think you read this one a while back, I think, Kerry, didn't you? I think you already knew about this one.
Yes, I didn't reread this one before we started, so let me.
Well, she's a knitter and a designer, and she is quite probably to my mind, one of the most problematic people in the knitting world, and she's spreading such hatred that it's just jaw-dropping. She literally is I'm not even sure she believes what she's saying, because what she's saying is unbelievable. You know, it's like, we will all agree that it's wrong. And I just can't imagine that the people listening to her really do believe that white people, for example, have no empathy. This is a statement she will say. White people have no empathy at all. So they're incapable of love. You know, this is something she will say.
Absolute racism. It's
Yeah.
disgusting.
The stuff that she says reminds me. Okay, either of you ever watched Star Trek: Next Generation?
What's it called again?
Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Oh, right. Yeah, I have seen it, but I didn't watch it.
So at one point, Captain Picard, the human, has been kidnapped by these Romulans, this other race, this other species, and he's torturing him. And the torturer's daughter comes in and is saying, "Oh, well, why are you doing this, Dad?" And he says, "Oh, the humans, they're not like us. They don't care about their children like we do. They don't love each other like we do. So it's okay to torture them." Right. It's the same thing. I don't see you as anything like me. You're so different that you deserve to be hurt because you're not like me.
It's dehumanizing.
It's a way to dehumanize. We both said the same thing. Yeah, which is what they did to the Jews in the 30s, prior to what went on there. Because this is often a thing that comes up in arguments, isn't it? What's it called? The Godfrey law or something? Is it called? Where every argument descends into an accusation of Nazism. I can't remember what it's called. There's a
Godwin's law.
Godwin's law. That's it. And they often say, "Oh, how dare you compare the things that are happening now to what the Jews went through?" And it's like, yeah, but we're comparing it to what they went through before the bad, really bad stuff happened.
Right.
We're talking about early 30s, late 20s.
It didn't start with the concentration camps.
So here, some of the things, the reason why the people who get caught up in the cult of social justice can't see this for what it is, which is blatant, naked racism. The reason why they can't see it as that is because they establish these magic rules that make no sense and have no basis in reality. And you've got right here in the article, here's one of them. Look at this. That she, as a Black woman, cannot be racist. That's a magic rule. That isn't, there's no basis in reality that Black people magically can't be racist.
Is it this bit here?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's magic. And I don't believe in magic. And it's like the adults, and I was one of them. I was one of them who came around to do the mental gymnastics to try and make this make sense. It's like doing a kind of calculus in your brain where you're like, well, because we have this new definition. Again, they control the way you think by controlling definitions and language and words. And so first of all, they had to change the definition of racism for me to accept this. They had to convince me and program me that racism doesn't mean judging and treating people differently on the basis of race. Racism means prejudice plus power. Oh, okay. So once I had accepted that, then it was easier for me to accept, okay, a Black woman is in a race that doesn't have power as a race, and therefore, okay, you subtract the 2 and add the 4. Okay, she can't be racist.
Yeah.
That's messed up. That's a lot of work to get there. Like, that's not, anybody can be racist. Like,
Oh, here we go. White people are raised to have no empathy, especially for Black people. This is the other thing, that white lives are less important than sacred Black lives. The funny thing was, she said that all Black life is sacred, but then she actually said, apart from unborn babies. She actually made that caveat. She actually said that. So basically, she didn't want to offend anybody that loves abortion. Basically, you could see she was treading on the eggshells over that. But it's this Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter thing. I just don't understand how they don't get the point of that. The fact that if you just say all lives matter, there's no argument.
Including the Black ones.
Yeah, exactly. It's everybody, isn't it?
Because their ideology separates us necessarily by race and sex and sexuality and everything. And so they view anything that unites and anything that recognizes our common humanity as bad. It's bad. You have to separate people out and say, they don't like all lives matter because it lumps us all together.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a uniting thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing she does as well is at the end she charges people for these learning lives, she calls them, and she doesn't get it, so she doesn't always get this amount of money. So I have to hold my hands up there and say it's not like she's getting it from everyone, but she wants $90 for an hour and a half of talking because that's what her rate is for teaching people. So if she's on for an hour, then each individual is supposed to pay $60. But then when you've got some of the people who I now know are actually very rich, some of these white people are extremely rich that follow her, they're paying that amount of money every other week or every week, however long she's on. They're paying $90 each time just to hear her tell you how racist you are as a white person. It's like, why do you need her to tell you that? Why? What is wrong with you that you don't know if you're a
It's the
racist or not?
self-flagellance.
You got it,
I can see what Carrie's doing there.
Yeah.
Lash me again, Father.
Well,
Like,
it even
like
I mean, there's even a confessional in her thing. Like I put it here, where they're allowed. There's a 10-minute period where they are allowed to voice their kind of worries about things that might be perceived as racist. And then the moment that 10 minutes is up, if you're not black, you are not allowed to talk to her at all. And a gay white man did this. He contacted her. This guy completely hates everything we believe in. He's one of them. He's a woke guy. And he contacted her and mentioned some books that she must have recommended and said how great they were, probably white fragility and all that nonsense, it was like he had murdered someone. She shared all the posts. She was saying how stupid he was because he couldn't understand plain English. How dare he contact her, a black woman doing the work, all this stuff. And basically completely humiliated him and got all of her followers to attack him. So bad that the guy contacted me. I'm the sworn enemy of these people, and he contacted me to say what had happened and how he couldn't believe what had happened. So I think he has kind of flipped. He has seen, because of his poor experience with her, I think he's now in a position where he's seeing things as they really are.
Well, once they come for you, yeah,
it's just crazy how horrible she was about it. Because it's like there's this because they often get, I often hear them say things like, and I'm a black woman. I'm not saying this. I know I say that, but I mean this is what they say, and it's like, so what? So what? Does that mean
I'm a white woman? So what?
Yeah, the laws of the land don't apply to you, because they believe that they can't lie and that nobody can ever question them. And I'm not saying all black women. I always have to say this. I'm talking about the people in this cult,
the woke. What's this woman's name again?
Fatima Hines. And she calls herself her real thing is disturbing the fleece, but I call her fleecing the disturbed. But what I will say about her at the moment, though, is to be fair to her, she's bereaved at the moment. Somebody has died in her family. However, I am going to criticize one thing that she did, which I thought was pretty disgusting, is when whoever it was in the family was ill, they were dying in hospital. She was begging for people to pay for her parking tickets at the hospital through Instagram, and I just thought it was really kind of, what's the word? I don't know. It's just something I would never do.
Manipulative and
it's just totally tacky.
Yeah,
just,
that's the word. You ask if you need money. You ask your face-to-face people. You don't. I mean, they'll turn around and say, "Oh, you've got a patron. You're asking for money." It's like, well, no, I don't beg for money. If people want to offer money, then that's fine, but I don't beg for it, and I wouldn't ask people to pay for, my parking ticket if I was taking, my mum to the hospital or whatever. It's completely unrelated, but and the way they justify it is, this whole thing of, well, it's all about the white privilege that she doesn't have. Therefore, white people should be paying her way, basically. That's what. Oh, she's moved from Georgia to Canada. To be fair to her, she did actually do, what others haven't, where they said she left. Yeah, she did do it. But I have suspicions that the reason she's done it is for the free healthcare in Canada, because I believe she's outed one of her children as being queer. So she's done that. And I wonder whether the child is trans and they've moved to Canada to get free transition. I don't know. This is just me, wondering, because it just seems a weird, I would never move to Canada.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I'm
Adam. I know
so
Adam's
glad,
here.
though. Yeah, sorry, Adam. But I'm very, 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 very glad when the woke do move to Canada or California. There's a lot of, as you know, a lot of people are moving from California to Texas over the past few years. But after our most recent election, where we beat Beto for the third time, 3-time loser, I saw a lot of posts anyway of people saying they're moving back to California. I'm like, thank you. I think we need to just start, live amongst people who are like-minded. It doesn't mean they have to it doesn't mean close yourself off in a cult. It means when you're building a community, you want to have people around you who have shared values. You can have all different opinions about how best to get to a place, but you want to have the same place that you're going to, that place of whether it's we value liberty and individualism and individual rights and equality, or if it's the woke, which is we value what your skin color is and what your gender is and your sex and sexuality. Like you want to have the shared values, and then you can have all different opinions on how to get there and about all faith or not faith or whatever. But I think it's kind of a good thing that we've been getting back to. Hopefully people are like, okay, if I'm building a community, I want it to be with people who have at least shared values.
Yeah. We've had a ton of people moving to California here too. I mean, the county I live in has gone from 50,000 to 100,000 in the past 10 years.
Wow, Suzanne.
60,000 to 100,000. And they're mostly coming from California. It's like, we don't mind you coming here, just don't bring California with you.
Where do you live? You don't have to, if you don't want to say publicly, I get it, but what state are you in?
Southern Utah.
Oh, okay.
It was actually one of the fastest growing places in the country. It topped the list in 19 and 20, and I think now it's like second. But it's just
is Utah a red state?
It used to be very red, but now it's slowly becoming purple because all the California people are coming here.
Which is surprising, because isn't Utah very religious, or have I got that wrong? Isn't that supposedly a religious state?
It was founded by the Mormons, but in the past 20 or so years, there's been so many more people moving in that are not Mormon that it's, especially up north in Salt Lake, that is like the center of the Mormon church. It's quite blue up there.
Right.
So it's not as religious as it used to be.
Yeah, because you'd think Californians being, the devil worshippers, you'd think they'd want to move somewhere else, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but they like the climate, and there's like up in Salt Lake area, that's like the second Silicon Valley going on. A lot of the computer companies are moving there because it's cheaper.
Here too. Yeah, we have a lot of that happening here.
Is Utah completely landlocked? You don't have a coast, do you? So have you ever seen the sea? Have you ever seen the ocean?
My mom's family was from California, so I've been there quite a few times visiting her family.
Because I always find that amazing when I hear of people that have never seen the ocean in real life. I just can't imagine that, because everywhere in the UK is practically by the sea, kind of.
Yep, I only have because we visit my mom's family.
The other thing I was just going to show you on here was some of the things that she has said, where she wants to have, she holds Zooms which only Black people are allowed to go to. And the reason for that is so that they can be safe. And I have to ask, what are they, what are they in fear of from knitters exactly?
They have to feel safe in a Zoom meeting?
Yeah.
How exactly are they going to be threatened in a Zoom meeting? If someone threatens you, you turn off your computer.
You block them, don't you? You kick them out of the Zoom.
Easy.
Yeah. She's, I don't want non-Black people in my DMs talking to me about how they feel. So I do not want non-Black people in my DMs telling me about how they feel. I don't have the time or the energy.
Okay, so just a technicality here. What if you are half black? Could you give half of your feelings? Or
she does have an answer for this. She says she does. Yeah, it's about proximity to whiteness. So the nearer you are to whiteness, the less she wants to talk to you. So, for example, this whole debate she had here with herself on this Zoom, on the Instagram thing, she talked about whether to allow people that weren't white but weren't black. And in the end, she said, no, only black people. So people who identify as black. So if you're mixed race and identify as black, I'm assuming she would accept you. But if you were very mixed race and you were just a tiny little bit black, she probably wouldn't accept you. But she
I have some follow-up questions. Okay, what if you are mixed race but you appear to be white and you pass as white but you identify as black? What if you are very black but you're Candace Owens? What if you are I just have like about 10 follow-ups.
We need to invite her on. Fatima, come on and answer these questions.
So Carrie, do you know how to pronounce there's a young black woman who does a lot of videos for like Blaze? It's Amana. I can't pronounce it.
I don't know her.
Maybe you did. She does a lot of really good videos. She's young. I think she used to be woke, but she does a lot of really good videos for Blaze Media and then her own stuff.
Oh, Amala, the one she does.
Yes.
Praga U. She used to do a show with Will Witt.
Yeah, she does Prager U.
Yeah, she's quite good actually. Yeah, she did one recently, and I can't remember what it was about. And she was
really liked her, but I don't know how to say her name.
Yeah, because I always remember it because I used to think they were calling her Kamala, as in Kamala Harris, but it's Amala.
So it's Amala.
Yeah, just take the K off. Okay. Whether it's spelt the same, I think it is, but I'm not sure. Yeah, she's on Praga U or Prager U quite a lot.
Yeah.
And Will Witt seems to have been thrown off Praga U since she turned up, so I don't know whether they didn't get on. I'm not sure. But cool. She I mean, this Fatima, she is probably one of the most racist people I've ever encountered in my life, because the way I judge if something is racist is like, just change white for black.
Yeah.
To make white people feel safe, should I stop, should I make sure that it's white people only on here? Does that sound racist? Yes. At the time, this conversation is not for black people. It is not for black makers. That's racist, isn't it? So how can she get away with this? It's like, but they would never take her off air or actually saying that, I have to say she did have a lot of problems being able to do lives on Instagram. So I think some of the things that she did say were considered racist by Instagram. So she was restricted. Yeah, but she's gone very quiet recently because she's getting over the death of her father, which is fair enough. So I'm just waiting until she starts doing these, learning lives again, because I do find them fascinating. I mean, I disagree with practically everything she says, but I do learn from watching them. I learn how they think. Because it's crazy. They are literally crazy. Unbelievable, and the fact that she's charging for that. Wow.
The fact that she's charging isn't as shocking as the fact that people are paying.
Yes.
Because people charge for all kinds of things.
Suzanne, let me tell you the most disturbing group I ever saw on Facebook. I got invited to this private group, and it was called something about white guilt group. And it was a group of black people and white people who they called their pay piggies. They're white pay piggies. And the white people were choosing to be there. And the black people would come in and post like stuff like, I need money for my parking meter, or I need money for to get my nails done today. Who's going to pay up piggies? And then the white people would pay and get basically lashed by them verbally. And they wanted that. It was some kind of weird have you heard of FinDoms, like financial dominance? It was some weird thing also mixed with social justice. So it's these people who want to be taken advantage of financially and insulted and called horrible names, and they are attracted to that, and they're like willingly like, I'm a pay piggy, take my money. Like, so gross.
Well, Fatima calls the people that follow her flock. And it's like, they are sheep. She's laughing at them. She's calling them sheep.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's insane. That's completely insane.
Well, you should, if anybody, you should watch her. She's called Disturbing the Fleece on Instagram, and it's worth watching just to, see your own jaw drop, because you won't believe the stuff that she says. And the thing is, she comes across as a very nice person. I'm not saying she's a nasty person, but it's like, it just shows how you can say some of the most unbelievably horrible things, but with a smile, and kind of get away with it. It's weird. It's kind of it's a compulsive, repulsive thing for me. I'm kind of drawn to it and pushed away from it at the same time, because I kind of want to watch the shit show.
Ew, you're like those people who like to go on YouTube and watch gross like zits being popped and stuff.
Oh God, no. Metaphorically, yes, but not literally.
Ew.
Oh no, I've got a friend who does like the literal thing. Oh no,
gross.
That's horrible.
My sister does too.
Oh. Thank you for bringing us down to that. Now we've all got that image.
Yeah.
Give us a new image, someone.
Reviews. Okay, let's look at the reviews. So these were all the nice things that people said.
I love the review.
I'd put them all in there. No, I keep saying all. It's not all of them. Some of them I strategically hid things with other comments. So there's a reason why that you can't see everything, because some of them had names in or details in that would have given away something about them. Because the interesting thing about what has been happening is some quite famous people in the knitting world have contacted me since I've been doing this, and secretly support what we're doing, and watch everything I do, read everything I put, every post, and I get private messages, and some of it is heartbreaking, because they say things like, I've got kids, I've got a business that I have to run, and if they destroy that, I've got nothing, and they will destroy it, if they know that I contact you. But they tell me a lot of stuff that I can't publish. Some of the things that have happened with some of these people that I've written about are atrocious. Some of the things that they've done to people. I've had people who were suicidal over what they did to them. It's crazy. Excuse me, but I wish I could publish some of these things, because if people knew, even the woke people, I don't think would agree with what they've been doing.
How bad it is.
Well, they still kept going after Nathan even when he was in the hospital.
That's true.
Some of them wouldn't care.
Yeah,
they were proud of themselves.
Oh, they wanted proof then, didn't they? It's like they're happy to demand proof but never actually give proof. I couldn't believe when I heard that they wanted proof that he was in the hospital. It's like, what kind of people are they? But that's pretty much issue 2. So unless there's anything you want to go back on here, we can talk about anything we like now.
I just want to say, if you're watching this and you're not a knitter, because I did see some people I recognize in the chat, who Robert was here, who I don't think are knitters, you should still consider supporting or reading this magazine, because as you've seen in this episode, there's a lot of interesting stuff that applies to other areas, like the whole thing about the French Revolution and the crazy ladies and history repeating itself, and there's a lot in it. So I think what you're doing is amazing.
I've got a few things. I know Suzanne knows a couple of things that I've got planned. I think you do anyway. I'm a real history buff. I love history, and I love real history. I don't like the nonsense that we're being taught now. So every issue I've kind of tried to have something, and I've got some big things coming up, like that people are not going to know about, that they're going to be shocked when they read. They do touch into knitting, so there is a relevancy, but a non-knitter will be able to read it and not enjoy it. Well, yeah, enjoy it, for what it is as a history thing. They'll be shocked, I think, some of the things that are coming up. Other things are going to be silly, a bit like the stilt walking knitters. That's a big piece of history that doesn't, matter. But some of the things are going to be possibly hard hitting for some people. Some people won't necessarily like them. So it's worth reading just for that.
I love the history stuff. Oh, the article that you did with the shepherds that were knitting, like while they're watching the flock and walking around and stuff. I showed some of that to my sister, and she loved it. The history stuff and the pictures. It was great.
Oh, good. Yeah, because that's the thing that I think will draw people in who have no,
Yeah.
because it's not necessarily things that they're going to see anywhere else. Because I literally am scouring all the time to try and find, these things. Because I was one of the things in the last issue, in issue 6, which was the hats, the RAF hats. I don't know whether anyone has seen that. I wanted to get that out in the magazine before somebody else told that story, because I know that nobody in the English-speaking world has published that story before, because I've searched for it, and it's based in something that happened in Denmark in the Second World War, and I watched a film recently. Oh, it was grim, very grim, called Bombardment. And it was about the English bombing Denmark during Second World War to try and destroy the German, munitions factories and stuff. And there were so many opportunities where they could have showed the resistance fighters wearing the RAF hats that were crocheted, but they didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't do it, and I was so disappointed, because basically what it was a form of rebellion against the Germans. They knitted British RAF hats, and the kids especially used to wear them and sort of tease the Germans, until the Germans got really nasty about it, and then it got quite serious. And then for a long time, every year on May the 5th or May the 4th, I forget the date, the Danish used to wear those hats as a celebration for the end of the war, but I don't think they do anymore. I think the whole thing has kind of died out, and I could not find anything in English about this at all. It was all in Danish. Yeah.
I love history and grew up with history, and I had never heard of that before. So it was a very interesting article.
Well, I'm thinking of, we've got the Imperial War Museum in my city just up the road, and I'm considering contacting them with the story and actually giving them the hats, because I did the patterns for the hats to show what they look like, and saying, if you want them, you can have them. Because we even have a Spitfire, because they were based on the Spitfire logo of the planes that were dropping the bombs, and we even have a Spitfire museum, but it's not in my city, but they run it, so they could potentially be interested in it. Whether they will or not, I don't know. I've got to figure out who to contact yet. But yeah, things like that I love that kind of, things that we've lost, that we've no idea happened anymore,
Yeah.
So has anybody asked any questions in the chat? Because I've missed most of the chat because I had the magazine open.
I didn't even know how to see the chat.
I'm just having a quick look through. Oh,
there it is. Okay.
We should have Candice contact Fatima. Yeah, that would be good. Yeah. Oh, BS, by the way, I've said it before. BS is the graphic designer. So thank you, BS, for all the work you do. Very much appreciated.
Oh, she commented earlier, and you put it up for just a second, that more people need to speak out.
Oh, yeah, right.
I mean, many of them are scared they're going to lose their livelihood and stuff. But when it gets to the point where they're going to lose it, whether they speak out or not, then more of them will start speaking out, because I might as well go out fighting. So hopefully people will speak out before they get to that point, though.
Well, I've wondered a few times because I think about the vaccine thing, and I think when they realise that they were wrong, I wonder whether they'll just quietly sort of say nothing, and then in 2 years' time pretend that they were always on our side anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's what a lot of people do.
Totally, because here's something I've noticed. I don't know if you guys have noticed this as well, but just anecdotally, among people I know in real life who are friends or friendly and who are woke, even the most woke among the people I'm still friends with are getting tired of it.
Right.
They're getting tired of it, and they're starting to mock it in taking very small steps towards mocking it. Things we were making fun of a couple years ago, when I first started waking up to it, they're just now taking those tentative baby steps towards poking fun at it, and sort of separating the ones I know, separating themselves from the most devout woke. Like, well, I'm not that. right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not that bad. I'm not that rigid. I have a sense of humor. I can make fun of it. It is a little exhausting, right? Like that kind of attitude. And that I think is that it's going to come crashing down.
Well, I read Reddit is like a cesspool of woke nonsense, and there's lots of knitting Reddit posts on there.
That's cool with a lot of things.
Yeah, and on Christmas Day, there was an episode of Call the Midwife, and there's always a lot of knitting in Call the Midwife. Well, I think there is. I've never actually watched it, to be fair. And
that's one of my favorite shows. They frequently knit or crochet. Yes.
Well, so did you watch it then? Was it aired on Christmas Day in America?
I haven't watched TV in the past 5 days because we've had like so many things going on, but I generally do watch it. I've watched every other episode, but the newest one I haven't seen
Okay,
yet.
well, I'll try not to give any spoilers as to what happened.
I did see the thing you posted about it though. So
yeah,
and
so
that's
what
happened
happened
before.
Yeah, so what happened is somebody in the show gave away a pattern for free to somebody who was a knitter. I don't know what the story behind that was.
The woman bought a bunch of yarn and she couldn't buy very much. And so the owner of the shop gave her some extra yarn. Says, "Oh, this won't sell. I'll give it to you," even though it was good yarn, and then gave her a free pattern as well. She was a very poor woman who needed help.
Well, somebody was very offended by that and went onto Reddit and said that they were sick of things like the BBC making it okay for people to give away patterns without, giving the money to the designer. And then loads of woke people were actually challenging it and saying, yeah, but you're talking about, even Patty Lyons was involved, who's like more woke than anybody. And she was saying, it was a different time when pattern designers weren't even named and they were paid by a company, and then that was it. What happened to the patterns after that, they didn't know about and didn't get any money from anyway.
It was also pointed out that the shop owner would have already paid for the pattern.
Yeah.
It was the shop owner who didn't get paid for giving the pattern, but the pattern designer had been paid by the company the lady bought it from.
Oh, that's just reminded. Sorry, I'm going to go completely off topic, but I've got to tell you this because I used to have a lodger, someone who rented a room off me, and he was a fantastic tattoo artist, and he was from Hong Kong, one of the most amazing artists I've ever known. And do you remember when the Manchester Arena bomb happened and 22 young people were murdered by the terrorist? It's only a few years ago, but it was here in my hometown, and 22 kids and a couple of slightly older people were murdered. And Manchester is the symbol of Manchester is the bee, the honeybee, because we were called like the Manchester workers, the workers of the world, basically. Everything to do with industry kind of started in my city, and so we have bees everywhere in the city. Logos everywhere. And so somebody came up with the bright spark idea of offering free tattoos of a bee. So they were only small, so that you'd go to the tattoo place, you'd pay £30 or £50, and you would get this tattoo of the bee. And that money would then go towards whatever the fund was that they were raising. Well, I ended up losing an old friend over this because they were all over the internet showing this bee and how virtuous they were because they gave this money, to the fund, whatever, until I pointed out, hang on a minute, you've given nothing. You've paid £30 for a tattoo, which you have got. The person that didn't get anything were the tattoo artist that had to. They were forced for 2 weeks to work giving tattoos for no money at all. So my friend was sick of bees, and he was like, absolutely sick to the back teeth. And he lost a lot of money because tattoo artists make a hell of a lot of money per day. You're talking £500 to £1,000 per day. They're rich people. Why he was living in my place, I don't know, because he was rich. He now lives in Australia, which is probably where all his money's gone. Bought a house over there. But anyway, and it's like this virtue signaling. It's like, so it's the same thing. It was the owner that spent the money on the pattern that was doing the good deed. The designer got the money anyway, and it's kind of, I just find it odd how people's minds don't make those connections.
Process right. Yeah.
Sorry, I went completely off topic there.
No, but you're right. You're exactly right. You're not giving anything. You got something. The tattoo artist is giving.
Yeah.
What they should have done is said, you know, you'll come and have a bee tattoo that is £30 normally, but you'll pay £50 for it.
And
You
the
know,
20
and then,
bucks will go to, yeah,
or 10 extra would go. You know,
Yeah.
so at least
Yeah,
the people
whatever.
doing it got paid, and
Yeah.
nobody ever acknowledged that. So those poor, you know, every tattoo artist in Manchester didn't get a penny for those 2 weeks because everybody knew you could get one for free. You know. Well, it wasn't for free. Sorry, they were. You know, people were paying for the tattoo. Here we go. Adam will remember. I remember it well. My girlfriend and I were getting ready for bed when the news flash came on. So were you living in Manchester then, or were you in Canada and heard about it in Canada? Yeah, it was 2 miles away from where I am now, so it was quite. I'm surprised you didn't know more about it. Did you never hear anything about it?
I heard about it, but I didn't know lots of details.
Yeah, it's turning out now that the ambulances, for whatever reason, weren't turning up for hours, and there's quite a few of those kids they're saying would have survived if the ambulances had got there in time. And there's some problem that somebody in charge on the day wasn't allowing the emergency services into where they were for, nobody seems to be able to. Well, somebody knows, but you know what it's like, the closing ranks, you know. So what time are we on now? So we've been on nearly 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else we need to talk about, do you think? Or have we exhausted ourselves?
I have a topic idea for you. I'm going to tell you after this, so it'll stay a surprise in case you do it.
Okay.
You just made me think of something earlier. I've loved hanging out with you, and nice to meet you, Suzanne.
Nice to meet you too. Suzanne. Actually, Sezzy is fine, or says. That's what people call me a lot. It's just says.
That's going to be easier. That's it now. Yeah. From now on, you says.
Yep. So my nickname thing is Sezzy Q, because that's what my dad always called me. So.
Did I introduce you properly? Did I tell everybody who you are and why you're here? Did I mention that, or did we just dive in and get? I can't remember now.
You said proofer.
Yeah. So says is one of our proofreaders. Yeah. And Kerry, does everyone know why you're here?
I am the token remedial knitter. Okay. I'm from a podcast called Deprogram, which is how I got to meet Neil, covering all the knitting wars, and it's been so much fun getting to know you and hanging out with you. And
yeah, it's quite weird doing it this way around because how many times have I been on your show now? Is it 3, 4? I don't know. I've been on a few times now. So to have you on my show, it's been kind of weird because I was saying earlier, I keep thinking I'm just going to sit back and wait for you to do everything.
Talk to you. This is really fun, though. I love it, and I love what like I said, I love what you're doing. I think Blocked Magazine is a good example of the real resistance, and
thank you.
It's just,
well, wait till tomorrow. So if anyone's free tomorrow, by the way, I'm the guests are coming on. Whoever's free. So if Kerry and Sez are free tomorrow, they can come on again because I've got Liz Clothier coming on tomorrow. Hopefully, fingers crossed. And tomorrow we'll be talking about issue 3, which is the first issue that BS Designs worked on. So there'll be you'll see a massive jump in quality. So from the sort of, amateurish version that I was doing, it suddenly becomes a real magazine.
It's your 5th grade version. It's the 5th grade graphics.
I tell you what, I have learned so much from BS without her ever having to teach me anything. Do you know what I mean? Like the things that she does. Because I just think, wow, I would never have thought of that. And some of the things are so simple, but what's this?
There she is.
We need to put that in, so just a remedial knitter in your bio.
Remedial knitter.
Well, I got called in for a gig tomorrow, and I need the moolah, so I will not be around. But I will definitely watch that episode.
Well, I might do. I'm hoping to do all 6, but I don't know whether I'm going to do them all this week because I don't know how I'll feel after Wednesdays tomorrow. I'm probably going to be exhausted. Too much peopling. I'll probably need a bit of time with the cats. But hopefully I'll get all 6 done because, and then I might next year. What I'll probably do is every time I do an issue, I'll probably do one of these shows straight after. So. Because I realised at a certain point that there are people that didn't see what was in the magazine because of what they'd read, but I know they hate watch. I know they hate watch these videos. Yeah. So at least they might get to see it.
There's also like my kids are 25 and 23, and they will not read
they'll listen.
anything. They won't read anything, but
Yeah.
they will watch a 5-hour video that tells them all about the thing rather than taking
Right.
10 minutes to read it. So younger
Yeah.
people, they would prefer to watch than read, even digital. So you can get more viewers that way.
Well, I've gone from having nothing on my channel for 2 months to having
Yep.
about 7 things in one,
It's awesome.
one day.
Yep, it's great.
Yeah. Oh, I'm trying to get the numbers up because I'm almost at 4,000 watched hours and I've only got 500 and something followers. And if I can double it, I'll start to be monetized so that I can get demonetized.
Yes.
Yay!
And
That's my
when you
aim.
have, yeah, your monetization party doubles as a demonetization party. It's just always the case.
It's just a matter of time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
So are you still demonetized or are you monetized again now?
I'm monetized. But basically about a third, somewhere between a third to a half of my videos are demonetized. They do it on a video by video basis.
Right.
They basically are like, you have to self-report on the back end for everything you talked about that's like a sensitive issue or related to current
is this when you
or,
get to that point?
yes. And then for there's like, I don't know, 7 or 8 categories, and then in each of those categories of things you have to say if you talked about it, and then you have to say to what degree you talked about it, a little bit, a moderate amount, or a lot.
Is vaccines on that list?
Yeah.
So me mentioning the word vaccine,
you have to self-report. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. So the issue 6, then when we come to talk about that, I've got to get that in before I get 1,000 followers.
Yeah.
There's a whole article about vaccine. So sorry, go on.
Well, I just kind of operate with like, if I get demonetized in a video, I get demonetized. And almost all of my pop culture videos are demonetized because we use other content, like we use copyrighted. And so we use music and we do clips. It's culture, it's pop culture review.
You don't get much anyway, do you? Unless you've got thousands and thousands and thousands.
Right. Most of it's not the advertising revenue. Most of it's like super chats or What?
Sorry, I'm just laughing at Adam's comment.
Oh, the ing sock,
send
is
it down the ing sock tube.
It took me a while. That's 1984, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was thinking, what? And it's like, of course.
Where non-existent things go.
Yeah.
Doesn't exist anymore.
The stuff that's happening at the moment is making me think more and more about 1984. I'm sure they're using it as the guidebook. I don't even think it was prophetic anymore. I just think that they're using it, as the way forward.
I have a bumper sticker on my car that says, "Dear America." My book was not it was not an instruction manual. Best, I've lost his name. The author.
Orwell.
Orwell, yeah.
And love G. Orwell. I'm like, yep.
Yeah, what was it? Somebody put, I can't remember what it was now. Somebody was saying Happy New Year, and then it was Welcome to 1984, for this year coming up.
Well, it's that whole thing about how history rhymes, right? That's why it's not prophetic. He's just writing about human nature, and it goes through these cycles. And I just interviewed this woman on Deprogrammed from who is from Iran. Her parents smuggled her out when she was 6 years old, and this is after the Iranian Revolution, where suddenly her family was Jewish. They had to be Jewish underground because to the outward world you had to be Muslim. Yeah. And so they were like secret Jews, and people would snitch on each other they would snitch on Jewish families. And my husband's reading a book about the potato famine right now with the Great Hunger. And I didn't know this, but he was reading me this part out loud about how the same thing happened with Catholics, where they had to become Protestant, and if you were caught practicing Catholicism, and so they had to go underground, there would be snitches, and it's just like we just repeat ourselves over and over. Now it's like woke snitches, like this guy did something with Neil's magazine. Let's call his workplace.
He read the cover.
Yeah.
There's also you know me, Park, I can't remember which. She's the voice of North Korea.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
On YouTube. I mean, watching her videos, it's just heart-wrenching, the stuff that she lived through. And she's like, and you guys are doing this. Don't let them do this.
There's a reason. There's a reason why communism, is failing around the world, because it's never worked anywhere.
I mean, it's one of those things that's a really good idea on paper, but as soon as people get involved, it just all goes to shit.
Yeah. The lady from North Korea, that story. I mean, it's so awful that it's hardly believable.
Yeah.
Because you kind of think, is it believable really what she went through? And then you think, well, we don't know for certain because we can't go there and see, can we?
Yeah. Well, we could, but
yeah.
we'd never make it back out. We'd die first.
Yeah. Yeah. Christ, yeah. Oh, well, it will soon be here because what did I read the other day? I don't know whether this is true, by the way, because I've only just heard about it, but apparently there's a book that was written in 1981. This is a meme thing that's been flying around on Instagram, and it's the plan for the future. And one of the things was about the jab, and basically that how did they phrase it now, that people would lead themselves to the slaughterhouse alone. Have you seen this? But I don't know whether it's real. I don't know whether the book is real.
Yeah, I saw that phrase.
So you know what I'm on about, don't you? But do you remember what it was called? I can't.
I just remember that I've seen that phrase somewhere. My sister has been a big conspiracy theorist for decades, so she always brings these things. Oh, what do you think about this one, and so they kind of all melt together. She brings so many.
I love a good conspiracy theory.
Yep.
You know that meme.
My sister was.
Your sister probably needs some new ones because a lot of hers probably came true.
Well, she's 15 years older than me. So when I was a teenager, she was fully an adult, and she was always, doing this conspiracy, that conspiracy. And me and my brothers are like, yeah, sure, whatever. But now that we're all fully adults, middle-aged, we're going, yeah, maybe she wasn't so wrong because that one's true, that one's true, that one's true.
Yeah.
They're all true now.
Well, wasn't the term conspiracy theory invented after JFK?
The CIA.
Is that true? Is that where it came
the
from?
CIA coined the phrase. The same way they come up with stochastic terror, the same way they come up with and plant these ideas now and these seeds, they did that then. It's like they name things so then they can isolate it, attack it, isolate
make it an enemy.
Did you hear about the guy the teacher that got into trouble for saying the N-word and what happened there? I don't know where. He was in America somewhere, and what had happened, the actual story turned out that two students were saying it to each other back and forth, and I'm presuming they were black, and he turned around to them. He was in a science class, a physics class, I think it was, and he said, "You're not allowed to say," then he said the word here. And
so
then
he got in trouble.
Yeah, but then they recorded him and said, "What word is that?" But he mustn't have known they were recording it. So they managed to get it on audio. And then he got suspended for a day. Then the media was built up into a frenzy, about how he had said the N-word, blah, blah, blah. And I don't think anybody's even known whether he's white or black or what at this stage. But he did the silly thing at the end of kind of apologizing and saying, maybe somewhere in the dark recesses of his brain, there was some racist stuff from years ago still there. And he's like, why? Why did you do that?
Never apologize.
Yeah.
If you've done nothing wrong, don't apologize.
Exactly. Yeah. But then you think, well, maybe he's woke. Maybe he was woke, and
a lot of the woke are they are racist.
Well,
they do. That's why they assume. That's why they assume all white people are, because they're like, but I am, so all white people must be like. They're like.
Because most people assume that the way they think and the way they live is how everybody thinks and lives. Yes. So it's hard for them to understand that, just because you think that you're superior to other people doesn't mean the rest of us do.
The video that I posted before this one with Hey J Yarns on, she calls me. She says that I'm at the top of the pyramid, that as a cis white man, I am the epitome of being privileged. Now, Hey J Yarns, the thing is like, Americans won't necessarily know this, but obviously I can tell by her accent. I know where she lives. She's from a tiny village in Oxfordshire. She's very privileged. She's gone to a public school, which is a paid for school. I can tell by her accent. And in the village where she lives, it's 95 to 99% white. Now, where I live, where is the poorest city in the country, it's also the country that has had the most migrants moved into the country in the last 10 years. So our you were saying your population has increased. Ours has increased by 30% with foreign people. So not even British people. So foreign people from everywhere, from Africa, from Middle East. So, you know, my neighbors are black or Asian. You know, I live amongst people. And it's like, but
She's from the
you're
1%.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's from a very privileged background, you know, but I'm from a very poor background, you know.
Because this is a narcissistic and sociopathic ideology, and every accusation from a narcissist or sociopath is a confession. Every accusation, that's what it is. It's projection. It's Darvo. I do think you should take every single epithet, everything they call you, every slur or nickname they give you, and just like you did with literally Nittler, run with it.
Evil Santa.
Take things out. So I think you should do like a logo or a piece of art for the magazine or something where you have a pyramid of balls of yarn. Okay, so imagine a pyramid of balls of yarn, and at the top you've got your little cartoon head, which looks like a ball at the top, and it's just your little face sitting on like a pyramid of yarn
with the beard flowing
down.
Oh, then they'd say I was trying to look like God, though, wouldn't they? They'd be saying I was trying to, you know, with the bearded God.
Yeah, but look, he thinks he's God.
I like that idea. I'm gonna think of that. I'm gonna do something to do with that. Yeah, I like being at the top of the privileged tree.
Yeah. Well, that's the same concept, Carrie. When I was in middle school, I was teased very, very badly. I was the youngest in the class, was put forward, and I was smart and nerdy and stuff. And I had this one teacher that tried to encourage me that when the kids would tease me, to like, oh, I know you think about me all the time. You just think of things, ways to speak to me and turn it around on them like that. But I was too shy and I couldn't do it. I just, ran and cried in the bathroom. But I love the way Neil just owns all of their insults. Yes, I am evil Santa. I am literally Nittler.
I am the stupidest man in all existence.
Yes.
My cats are oogly.
Yes.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? It's if you the only way they can hurt you is if you allow that to hurt you. And the thing is, I know they don't know me. I know these things aren't true. I mean, I might be a bit stupid, but I know that they're a bit more stupid than I am. So it makes it okay. Yeah, and I think this is one of the reasons why I did this in the first place, because one of the things I was hoping, and it's kind of starting to work slightly, but I don't think it ever did, is that I wanted to be the focal point for them to hate something.
Yeah.
So that other people might get left behind, and not left behind, but left alone.
Back off.
It's kind of worked a little bit, but then there's still been other people that have been cancelled since. I think I've just become an addition in a way, an extra thing to hate. But I don't mind it because I haven't got anything to lose. I don't have a business that they can destroy. I mean, they could destroy Block Magazine, I suppose, now. I suppose they could if they tried, but at the end of the day, that isn't an income stream. You know what I mean? They can't touch my income. So, and that's why I can do this. Whereas other people, like we were talking about earlier, if they've got an income that's based on their reputation in some way, they've got a lot to lose. Because you can't go, if you're evil and you're, literally Nittler and, evil Santa and the stupidest person and, the racist, most white, whatever, there's nowhere I can go further down. You know what I mean? There's no way you can get worse anymore,
I just want to know why they have so much time. How do they have so much time to destroy people like that? Don't they have jobs or lives? Seriously.
Some do and some don't, I suppose. It's I just wonder because because it's hard work. What I do, I find difficult to squeeze into a day, and I don't even do as much of the work anymore. BS does most of the work now for us, and you do all the proofreading, and Denise, and so I don't even have to proofread anymore. I just sit here and write a few articles and draw a picture every now and again. I still don't have time, so I don't know how they do it.
Okay, I have another cartoon I want to draw for you, or have someone draw for you. It's like
no, you've got to draw it now. You said I want to draw, so you've got to do this.
It's the 2 Minutes of Hate from 1984, and it's all these angry like pussy hat wearing knitters in the crowd, and they're like looking at the screen like angry,
taking their needles,
and then it's your cartoon you on the screen, and you're floating, and you're doing a yoga like a Zen pose, happy. and you have like a knitting ball over here and yeah,
And the
just
cats.
something. You're like, focus your hate here. It's cool, guys.
2 minutes of hate for
2
evil
minutes.
Santa.
Get it in. And they're
Oh, and I
like
could
shooting.
use the RAF hat as a target.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're shooting their hatred, and you're shooting back like sunbeams and skeins of yarn. And
Yes.
anyway, there's something there.
They throw their yarn at you, and you throw back a sweater to them.
Yeah.
Have a sweater. Hate the sweater.
You're spinning their hatred into love.
Yes.
Or laughter.
Lovely
I'm spinning your
sweaters
hate
and
into
scarves.
laughter. There you go.
Yes.
Yeah, something like that. Okay.
well, what's this? Neil as Goldstein. Oh, hang on, I don't understand that.
No, he's not Goldstein from 1984. No,
Oh, he's
but I'm just saying he would be the target of the 2 minutes of hate.
Yeah,
but
he's the one they hate for 2 minutes.
I did. You asked if there's anything else. I did want to say, because I have to go soon. I have to go to the ladies' room. This
I have an appointment for you, so.
Yeah, with the ladies' room.
How do you know you need the ladies' room? Are you biologists?
We know what a lady is.
This was made for me by Yo-Yo. If she happens to watch this,
I think she is watching. Yeah, I think she is. I'm sure she sent a message.
It's gorgeous. I love it. It's like a green, kind of like very Christmassy, and thank you very much.
Knitted or woven? I can't tell from here.
It is knitted. Correct me if I'm wrong. It looks knitted to me.
Beautiful.
Hang on, let's make the screen bigger for you. Hold on, so I'll take me.
Pretty. Is that good? Are you guys still there?
Oh,
okay.
So I'm talking. I forget if I come off. I can't hear. I'm talking away there. So yeah, it's definitely knitted. It was garter stitch.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, you know, this is why you have all those knitters on, isn't it? It's so that we'll all send you things in the post.
Send you nice knitted things.
Someone told me I'm knit worthy, and I will say, if that means because I love it and will wear it all the time, then call me knit worthy. I do love it, and I will wear it. And I'm while it's cold, I'm just gonna start pulling out the hats and scarves and wear it on my show, just to be like, thank you for this, because there's so many. And I'm very grateful for all the knitwear. And now, but you know what? It spoiled me. I'll say this at Christmas, if people give me people who are in my real life they're like, oh, Carrie likes hats, or she's always wearing scarves and stuff, and so they'll give me like a store-bought one, and I'm like, thank you. Like,
well, I'm not talking out of turn here, but my mum got because she's a pensioner now. I know you know about the cold thing and our fuel bills through the roof. They where she lives, they gave all the pensioners a little pack with thermal gloves, thermal socks, a thermal hat, and some other things in there as well, hot water bottles and so on. And she gave me the hat and just said, "Oh, Gav, this is like, you know, an extra Christmas present thing." And I just looked at it, and it had the label on it. It was a Jeff Banks hat, so you'd think it'd be good because he's a designer.
Okay.
But it was £2. They bought it for £2, and it was, which is what is that, like $3.50?
Yeah, something like that.
It was lined and it was machine knit, and it was all bunched up at the top. You know what I mean, where they haven't done any decreases. And I just thought, I knit hats.
Yeah, exactly. You can't do that. You can't give you something that's store-bought. And now it completely spoils you if you are a knitter, or if you receive a lot of knitting gifts, and then you're like, what am I mean, the thing is, I'm never, because there's so many beautiful handmade options, like I'm never gonna wear that ever.
Well, we need to get you knitting hats.
You find a nice, like, homeless shelter to give it to. They will love it.
So wrong.
They won't care.
I'm sorry, friends and family, if you're listening.
Thank
you very much.
Sorry, Mom.
The intent is, I love it.
You.
Thank you.
Oh, we have a question. Will you ever upload your videos to Rumble? I had never even really thought about it. So yes, I probably will. If it's a simple thing to do, I will.
Neil, you can get it to auto intake all of your videos for you.
Oh,
yeah.
Clever.
A lot of the dissident people watch that instead of YouTube, so you might get some more viewers over there.
Right. Yeah, I find it difficult because I watch YouTube through my TV, and I know with Rumble I can't do the same.
I use a Roku, and I can watch Rumble through my Roku, and I know Chromecast and a couple others do it too. So you might be able to get the
I've
the
got
app for
Chromecast
Rumble
in my
too.
bedroom TV, so I could do.
Yeah.
But then it means having to
Yeah,
go in
you
my
should be
bedroom
able
to
to watch Rumble through that.
Yeah, because there's
Maybe
another
with the
thing I want to
Chromecast
try
on
and
your
do as
TV.
well. I want to try and stop using Patreon as well, because I know they're dodgy as well, aren't they? And they could easily cut me off at any point.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole load of things that I've got in mind. Yeah, I'll look into that, and I will try and do it. I'm just a bit too fixated on YouTube at the moment. I'm kind of a sucker for YouTube.
Yeah.
Build your audience at YouTube until you use
Yeah.
it until the wheels fall off, and then but be growing your Rumble and your Odyssey
Yeah,
or
have it
wherever,
in the
so
background.
that when the wheels do fall off, you've already
It's
got
there.
some people
They're
there, and
established.
it's easy to go over. Yeah.
Yeah, I know the politically incorrect girls have been using Rumble a little bit, haven't they? Because they got taken off for a couple of weeks, didn't they? I think recently.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, locals. Somebody's mentioned locals. Where's it gone? Sorry, that one. I can't. I am a member of locals, and I do follow. Tree. I've forgotten her name now.
Tree of Logic.
No, she's a knitter. She has a farm. Sorry, she's going to be offended that I can't remember, because she interviewed me, and we had, we've got a great. I can't think of her name. I think she's called Teresa. I think that's a real name, but I can't think what it is. And I just can't get the hang of locals. I just don't get it.
I think I have the app, but I've never really used it. I don't understand it either.
Yeah, I'm not quite a boomer, but I am. Someone's saying that they'll join my locals. Yeah, I do have a locals account, but I need someone to teach me really how to use it, because I never even think about it. It's because you've got locals, haven't you, Kerry? You have a
yes,
locals
but
account.
I never really get on there, and I'm. It's a shame. I need to, and I have a lot of New Year's resolutions that involve what I'm doing with my channel. This is boring. I'll tell you later. And you in my diary.
Let's talk about knitting hats again. We need to get you to knit your own hats now. We need to get you beyond scarves.
Yeah, they're not that hard. Once you get the hang of doing it around, they're not hard.
The only hat
or you can do seams.
I've ever made was crocheted, and
you crocheted. You made it. So
I did make a crocheted hat. Yeah, that's. I liked your crochet article. One thing I took away from it was the part where it said, "How do you hold your needle? If you hold your crochet needle like a knife, then hold your knitting needle like a knife. If you hold it like a pen, then hold your knitting like a pen." I was like, "Oh, duh! Like that's gonna make the knitting so much easier." I was holding it the wrong way.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's the same with where you hold the yarn as well with your finger. You know, because if you're an English knitter, which I was, it's going to be harder. It's going to be harder to learn crochet. Whereas if you're an American or continental style, it's going to be much easier. Yeah.
I can never remember. Is English the? Am I doing English where I'm holding the yarn on my right hand and moving it?
Yes and no. You're doing flicking. That's called flicking. Whereas English, you actually let go of the yarn. So not the yarn. You let go of the needle. Whereas with flicking, you generally keep hold of the needle, don't you? As well as
when I take it here, I let go of the right hand needle while I pull it around, and then I grab it again to pull it out.
It's kind of, you would say it's an English style, but it's definitely a flicking style that you do, because whereas you kind of move your hand around with English, whereas now I do Portuguese because of my hands.
I need to learn how to do that, because I have rheumatoid arthritis and problems with my shoulders and my hands. I need to learn how to do that, because that sounds so much better.
It'll really help. You'll still get it in your thumbs a little bit, because you're using your thumbs rather, but it's definitely going to help your wrists.
Yeah, these fingers here are the ones that hurt me the most, so I need to learn how to do that. Yeah. But on that note, I have to go.
Okay, so thank you for coming on, and I'll see you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Neil, I got to run too. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're going to leave me on my own.
Yeah, I have my husband, our pipes froze and 2 of them burst, and we haven't had water since like Thursday. I think it was Thursday. Anyway, he fixed the plumbing today himself. Very masculine. And I was astounded.
Masculinity.
Yeah. And so I'm going to enjoy some indoor plumbing today.
I thought you were used to having no water, having,
That was back
hoses in the back
when.
garden.
Yeah, but then we got it all up and running, and I got spoiled again, and then
Oh, where was
yeah.
that photo taken where you had all the you had the big dining table? Was that your house?
No, so that was
Ah,
so Friday night Friday and Saturday we couldn't stay here because not only do we not have water, but it was so cold. The house is not insulated yet and we don't have skirting yet. So even though our heater and our power's going in and out and out. So it was 31 degrees in my house. My dog's water bowl froze into a solid ice cube.
oh no.
All the plants that I had brought in to protect them from freezing froze in the house. It was that cold. And so Friday night, my husband played a gig at this place where they have these. That's where that was. It was his gig, and then they put us up in this beautiful cabin with a fireplace, and it was
Well,
like,
I saw it and I
yeah.
thought, wow, they've done well in their house, because I knew you renovated it. It's
No,
like,
no,
wow,
no.
that's a big dining room.
That's a really cool venue in Fredericksburg, Texas. I'll plug them. They have Swiss, like the couple. They're from Switzerland, and they brought in these all these doors and windows from actual Swiss cabins in Switzerland, and they recreated. They have a restaurant and a music venue on the property, and then they have like a river and all of these Swiss cabins, and each one has its own whirlpool tub and fireplace, and it's just gorgeous. Like, so I was like, yes, I will stay there. We have no water or heat at our place, so yeah, that was cool.
I mean, Presty could do it. I wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah. Well,
I'd be like,
fixing the plumbing. He went on YouTube, and he talked to a friend. He just figured it out, like talking to people. I'm like, it's very attractive.
oh, is this you're going into the trad life now, aren't you?
I was like, oh, you fixed the pipes, and now I'm gonna fix your pipes. I'm kidding.
Do that on your channel.
sorry, double entendre.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. Anyway, it was just.
Are you hoping? Are you cooking for him then and cleaning and doing?
Oh yeah, because now that we have water, we had built up all these dirty dishes. I'm like, I'll clean the kitchen. I'll do the, yeah. Anyway, so I gotta run, but this is so much fun. I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Keep it up.
And
BS,
come on again.
Hopefully
You. Come on again, because I need to actually do a proper interview with you. So once I've got all of these issues out of the way, the magazine issues, I'll do a proper interview. Because one thing I'd like to do is a citizenship test, and I'd like to do it with you. I'd like you to do. Well, we can both do it. We both do a British and an American one. So we might need to ask someone to come in and maybe ask the questions for us so that neither of us know what the questions are going to be. But I just think it'd be really funny because I've got a feeling I'd fail the British one and I'd probably pass the American one.
I'd probably fail both. Let's be real.
Well, I think that'd be quite funny, especially to see the nonsense that is in the British citizenship test. It's things like, what benefits are you entitled to? It's like, why is that about citizenship? Seriously, there is that question in there.
It's in there. Wow. I would love to do that. So,
right, well, we'll do that after New Year.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.